Hello everyone, welcome to Redbust US channel. In this video, we'll look at the latest Trump administration's proclamation that was announced yesterday, how the $100,000 additional fee that would work and how does the impact look like, and we'll look at some of the common FAQs and what has come out after the text. So this is what we'll look at in this video. We look at overall background, why this is even coming in the first place. We look at each and every aspect of that and look at how about the lawsuits will work and everything that's going to be around this, right? So just to get started, right, what is the big news? So if you see the screen, right, so this is the announcement that was made, official announcement. There was again a Bloomberg article that came in early in the morning, and there was some confusion. There was some press release. So all in all, there were definitely some confusions after the press release. But once the text was published, a lot of things were clear. So that's why this video is actually like directly based on the official proclamation text. So we'll actually highlight the text wherever we see that, so that you actually see the real information. So always vet the information, validate it. Do not just read clickbait titles. It can be very misleading. So that's why just we try to give that information here. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, do subscribe for reading regular updates. So just to start with, right, the background. Again, one of the key things since Trump administration had taken office is abuse of the H1B program. How many people or many companies are trying to circumvent some of these, the actual intent of the program, right? So the good amount of the proclamation talks about the program, what are the key things that are happening. So some of those statistics that they talk about are where the H1B is misused by the IT companies, right? Where the share of IT workers went up from 32 to 65% in the last 5 years, right? And the unemployment also based on a report, right? Where they say that the unemployment for 22 to 27 year olds for computer science and computer science engineering is about 6.1 and 7.5, whereas the national one is about 4.3, right? So it's significantly higher if you look at it on a high level, right? So they try to give all sorts of stats, also talk about companies without naming them, that a company laid off 15,000 people but also had 5,000 H1Bs. Another one laid off about 27,000 employees but also hired 25,000 H1Bs or approvals, right? So they give all sorts of this data, and also it's projected in the first half, or rather good 30 or I would say 45% of the proclamation, that the program is technically abused, and all of these aspects, how companies are doing these practices and low wages and all of that, right? And it's impacting American workers. So that's the fundamental, similar to, if you look at the Trump administration's first term, they had buy American, hire American kind of a thing. So this one is very specifically for H1B workers. I think that's the main difference if you see between that versus this, right? And so again, we're not going to go all of the facts, so you can read that by details. But these are the high-level statistics that you see on the screen that were highlighted. Again, to issue a proclamation, the president need to have some standing. Right? I mean, they usually, INA, Immigration Nationality Act, do certain things. So for this, president has used something called 212F and 215A. So 212F is essentially like, looking at a broader American, and looking at, it's not going to be best for the national interest. So president has the authority to use and block. So this was something that was used during the COVID-19 and Trump, travel ban as well in the past. So that's a similar authority they are using. So the second one is 215A. This is more about how the kind of restrictions you can place for people coming and going out. So combined, both of these are actually like the broad provisions that President Trump has taken up to essentially, release this proclamation. So I guess this is actually very, I would say, kind of a gray area where president has a lot of authority, because he's not trying to change the regulation per se, but he's trying to use his consciousness, whatever, right, and trying to put this out there, highlighting certain things. So in that aspect, this is actually has a reasonable weight, I would say, right? We'll talk about that in the lawsuit section, but that's what it's based on, right? Now, looking at the actual proclamation, how it impacts it. So the first one is $100,000 additional fee for new H1B applications. So what they say is, if you are an applicant who are living outside of the US and planning to enter America on H1B visa, then you need to make $100,000 payment to the government. If you enter starting from September 21st, 12:01 a.m., So essentially this is really like targeted towards people who are outside of America and trying to enter America, right? So that's the main crux of it, right? And what they say is, if you're applying for an H1B, especially the first timers, right? Like when you're outside of India, when you're applying with USAs, even for approvals after lottery, now the company has to pay about $100,000, right? Again, you can't, this is something employees expense, so they have to pay, right? So that's the idea. So that's the second part, and it's an employee's obligation to actually maintain the proof and submit that to USCIS, so that then only they'll process that. If you don't have this, then they will not process or adjudicate your application. So that's what they're saying, right? And for enforcement, USCIS and Department of State, which is one that issues visas, they will coordinate and deny the entry for people if the $100,000 is not paid. So that's what the crux of the whole thing is, right? And again, there is no distinction made between cap exempt work versus cap subject, essentially, for universities and non-profits, right? So all of these things are basically like it applies to everybody. It's blanketly applied, right? So as you can see on the screen, this is actually the proclamation text, and we have highlighted in yellow. We'll put a link to the article where you can really go and look at our article where we go into extreme amount of detail of all of these things. So this is the crux of it, guys. I think $100,000 fees, that additional fees somebody has to pay on top of their existing H1B fee if you're coming from outside of the US. So what it does is when they explicitly say this, it means that it does not apply to people already living in the US. So in fact, the background is that they had a meeting with some top 10 companies, the tech companies, before this announcement, and again, this is what they say in the press release and all of that, right? But the idea is this is not applicable to anybody who are inside the US. When they say outside, it's implied that it doesn't apply to anybody in the country, right? So as you can see on the screen, this is only for them and who are trying to enter. So what it means is that if you are already in the US and applying for renewals, extensions, transfers, all of these, you're not subject to this fee. And also, if you are applying for a change of status, right? Imagine you are an F1 student or an H4 applicant or an L1 applicant or dependent, all of them trying from one to another stage, moving, then it doesn't apply to you. So it's kind of very clear on that, right? So again, this is not explicitly written per se, but that's what the implication is, that it doesn't impact people already in the US. So this was exactly the similar language that was used back in 2021 and 2020, when we had the travel ban, where we had this national interest exception kind of things that were announced as well. So we are basically taking the same analogy and coming to that, right? So all in all, when you're switching status, or if you're already in the US, it won't impact you. Now, what they also say is that there are national interest exceptions that the Secretary of State can make if he sees some person or somebody employed by a company have certain skills or certain, national interest related ones. Imagine you work for, missile development of America, right? Or you work for space exploration, or working in cyber security, or all of these very specific things that are in the national interest of America, then they can get an exception. So that's what they say. But there is no clear guidance at the moment given what these specific things are. In the past, when we had during COVID pandemic, we had all of these things given clearly, but we will expect to see some of these things coming out, after this, what this will mean. But the idea is you can get an exception, so that's the fundamental thing. So we'll have to wait and see how it comes out. No, there are other things in the proclamation as well. One is changing the prevailing wage levels. So essentially, they're saying that Department of Labor should go into rulemaking to revise the prevailing wages. Based on basically change them to increase the wages, right? That's what they're implying. So what you see on the screen is the current wage levels: 17, 34, 50, and 67. These are level 1, 2, 3, 4. So these are wage levels. So in the past, Trump administration did try to change this, but didn't make it all the way through. It was blocked actually, right? So we'll have to see how this will pan out. This is something that can or may not happen. We'll have to see. But this is something that was attempted in the past and did not make it, right? So the other one they also have is changing the lottery based on highest wage. This is something that's already in progress if you have been following us, right? Currently it has created OMB, and we are expecting to see this text anytime soon. So that's what that's where it stands. So we can expect to change these lottery things also. Again, these are all just additional things that they're saying in the proclamation, that we are trying to do all these things, and so that this will be done in the future. Also, there is some guidance in that telling that for B1, B2 holders, saying that they can't abuse B1, B2 if you have already an H1B. So imagine you are someone who have an H1B approved, but because of proclamation you cannot enter America. But you already have a B1, B2 from the past. Now, people could come into the US and B1, B2 and then do a change of status. So that's a loophole. So they're saying people cannot use that, and that's what misuse means. Or second option is, you already have an H1B, but now you come on B1, B2 and then work for 3 months or 6 months and then try to do the work and then go back, do that shuttling part, right? So this is what they mean by do not use. So there will be guidance coming out on this as well. But in short, this is what we can assume. So if you are traveling, basically, if you already have an H1B approved and you're traveling on B1, B2, then you need to be aware of this, assess the risks are associated with that. I think that's important for you to know. Next, what is not clear? Again, some things are not clear. Again, this is one of the big ones that's not clear. So the unclear part is it does not specify if the 100K fee applies to returning H1B holders. So the scenario is you are in the US working on H1B visa. Now you visit your, family vacation, whatever, you step out of the country, and now when you're coming back, do you have to pay $100,000? It's not clear, because the proclamation or the executive order talks about this for first timers or outside, but it doesn't talk about this in a specific sense. So we are waiting for the guidance on this, right, to be honest. So the thing is, if you already are outside of the country and trying to come in, if you cannot make it by 21st, 21, try, because it's a very high risk. You might be stuck at the airport and you have to go to deporting procedures, all these nonsense you'll have to deal with. So which is why it's very, very important. So you do not travel until this guidance is clear. So we'll keep you posted on how this works, right? So that's the whole thing about the proclamation, guys. So the effective date is September 21st, 2012-01. So if you come after that, imagine you're already in the flight, in Europe, you're really in a very, very bad situation. So how this will pan out. So yeah, it's very nervous situation for many. So we'll have to see what guidance comes out. But yeah, this is valid for 1 year, guys. That's what they say. It's valid for 1 year, and right after 30 days after the next year lottery, which is 2027 lottery, they'll have to make recommendation if they're going to extend this or not. So we'll have to see. And now the other aspect of this is, now that we know the proclamation, or the executive order, right? Both of them have equal weightage, so not like too much of a difference. So can we expect a lawsuit, and what's the impact it has, right? So the first thing is, it's going to have a tremendous impact on universities, non-profits, companies that are really like relying on all of these sorts of things, right? So basically, we expect a lot of lawsuits that can happen. There will be many advocacy groups that are going to look at that. And we will expect lawsuits, and there will be coming. People are working on the weekend to get this going, right? But in all practicality, right, the chances of this lawsuits to be successful are really mixed. You can't really say that they'll be thrown out, because Trump's travel ban was actually held up in courts back in those COVID-19 time frame, and also we had similar bans as well back then. So many of them, leave it to the courts, and looking at the courts right now, even if it goes Supreme Court, you may actually this. It's very hard to say. He may actually win also, right? So probably the chances of this to be an effect are very, very high. So we'll have to see how this comes out. So we'll see, how things pan out, and let's see. Now just look at some common questions, right? Does it apply to, you're an F1, H4, all these other visa types? Does it apply to you? No, absolutely no. It's very clearly written in the proclamation or the executive order that it is only for H1B holders. So do not be worried if you're another visa type. And is it applicable every year? So there is a confusion that in the press release or the press briefing that was done in White House, Commerce Secretary was saying that it is applicable every year, but which is not true, because the language now clearly tells it's not applicable every year. So that one is something that is not true as well. So we'll see if there is any new guidance that comes out on this. But as of now, per the language that is in the proclamation, it is not applicable every year. The third one is if you are an F1 student in the US, doing change of status from October 1st will apply to you. Obviously not, because you're already in the US. So make sure you don't step out of the country, because you'll need a stamping, and again all this could trigger these things, right? And what are the national interest exceptions? At this moment, we don't know. So we'll keep you posted how things will come. So that's how it looks, right? So overall, this is a very nervous situation for many of the H1B holders. So we'll have to see how this will be tackled. All in all, this is mainly targeted towards people who are outside of the country, and mainly they are targeting outsourcing companies, MNCs that actually do business with sending foreign workers from India to abroad to the US, or from outside of India to anyway to the US, right? So that's the main target. They're not really, the tech company's impact is going to be very minimal. So that's what the reading looks like. So again, we'll keep you posted how things pan out. Do subscribe for getting regular updates. Thank you for watching. Thanks again.